Hi, everybody, and we are back for part two of our chat with Adam Daniel, all about business. I'm sure you tuned into number one, which was all about the fundamentals of business. If you haven't, stay here, watch this one, and then go to that. Adam, thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom today. Thanks a lot.
Absolute pleasure, Teresa.
We had lots of amazing feedback from what came out of that first discussion. And I know we have a bit of a plan. So today we're going to follow on. So it's going to have some links to things like marketing and stuff like that. But there's going to be three things that we're going to talk about: ruthless prioritization, the tripod formula, and your elevator pitch. And then I'm going to throw a few other random questions at you. And, I think one of the reasons I love what you do, Adam, is, it's not just sort of like preaching, you should do this, you should do that. You are ultimately an educator. So people listening into this will feel inspired and you're going to share that wealth of wisdom. So a massive thank you to you. It better be good, all right?
No pressure there, Teresa.
No pressure at all. But I think, I do see, if I'm on social media or whatever, there's often a lot of like, if you're in if you're in the fitness business and you want to do this and you want to be an online trainer, you want to do this with your business, there's lots of stuff being pushed out there. But it's almost like people, it feels really like you should. But every time I ever hear you talk about stuff, it gives people the opportunity to reflect. So rather than I'm saying it, but feeling preachy, it feels like something that people can genuinely do. So the first one we mentioned that it would be for people who were, right at the beginning of their journey, or they just wanted to improve. So people, as you're tuning in, if you've been in the industry for 100 years like the pair of us, you're going to gain something. Or if you're absolutely new to it, there's going to be some things you're going to take away. So Adam, let's go with ruthless prioritization. It sounds very sexy. I want to hear about it. Go ahead.
Okay, we'll get to that. However, I'm just going to pick up on something you said first, Teresa. You know how I like to go off plan all the time.
I love this.
You mentioned reflection, and as you said that, there's quite a, I guess if you know who he is, it's a well-known quote. If you don't know who he is, you'll have no idea. There's an American poet writer called John Dewey, and he has a quote that I really like and resonates with me a lot. And I'm sure we've all heard that saying in the past: you learn from experience. Well, his quote is actually, you don't learn from experience, you learn from reflecting on experience. And I think that's a great way to start today's episode, because there is that when you are building, sustaining, or growing a business, there has to be a period of reflection in there. Because if you're not reflecting on what you're doing, how do you know what you have to change? You're just guessing, in essence. You're just going, well, that didn't work, I'm going to change it. So really, the reality is you have this, let's call it the stimulus. So the stimulus being, you tried something, it didn't work, and then you have the response. The reflection gives you that space in between. I've just sent out 2,500 emails. I've not had one reply. I'm going to send out 5,000 emails. Without that gap in the middle, that space in the middle, you don't have the time to reflect and go, well, I've sent out 2,500 emails. Why did I not get one reply? What do I need to do differently to get two replies? And that's what we're looking for. And I think that's where that idea of ruthless prioritization, I can't even say it, comes into play. Is that part of prioritization is mapping out and having a conscious space to reflect on what's actually happening in your business. And I'm going to make an assumption that a lot of people watching probably don't factor in regular reflective practice on their business. They might do it for them personally. They might do a bit of journaling at the end of the week, or maybe at the end of the day, they think about what they can improve upon. Yet, from my experience, not many people actually put it into practice in terms of for their business. And that, okay, what's going well? Why is it going well? What do I need to keep doing more of? What's not going well? What do I need to change to make a difference?
I think, or anybody listening to this, watching this, is going to go, that sounds good. Sounds great. It sounds like that would make a difference. But how do they do it? How do they feel? Because I mean, last time we were talking about it, and there's a lot of noise out there. People are just working very, very hard, and there were some great gems that you gave us last time. But I feel like a lot of the time people feel that they're chasing their tail a little bit in business, and they don't like you say, just don't stop, take a breath, and sort of just take that reflective practice. So is there some times perhaps you would suggest that they sort of almost set it out in a, is it a weekly thing? Do they work with somebody else? What are some suggestions of how they can actually make it truly happen regularly enough?
Yeah. So what you're saying there in essence is, when do you find the time, or how do you make the time to work on the business and not just in the business, which is again a sort of a famous business saying. And I think that's critical. And to your question, I guess, is, well, when do I suggest? I don't suggest. Is that your business is your business. You know how it operates. You know how you operate, and you know the cadence of your business. You know how you like to work throughout your working day and what times work for you. So I think first of all, what we need to look at is, what does ruthless prioritization actually mean?
Yeah.
And we can start to break it down and go, well, how do I make these things happen? One of the first things I think we need to look at is the word. People, you hear two words a lot, one more than the other. I'm going to ask you, Teresa, if someone says to you,
Yeah.
what word do you hear more frequently when you're talking to people? Do you hear the word effective or efficient? Which word comes up more frequently in conversation?
Effective.
Good.
Effective, probably. Yeah.
People then. I would suggest that a lot of people talk about being efficient versus effective.
Right.
There's two different things. Is that being effective is about doing the right stuff all the time. Well, I should say the right stuff at the right time is probably a better way to put that. Being efficient is just doing lots of stuff.
Yeah.
So I might use the word multitasking, just doing lots of stuff, getting stuff done. Are you being truly effective in your business?
Mm-hmm.
And whilst we all have businesses to run, we need to understand how we can maintain or if you're choosing to grow the business. And we need to actually factor in time for that. So one thing I actually did, and I did this in lockdown, and I'd been aware of it, and I thought lockdown's a great time to do this. And what I introduced to my week during lockdown was what I call maker days and manager days.
Mm-hmm.
And by the names, you might guess what it's about. So a maker day for me, which during lockdown was Tuesdays and Thursdays. A maker day was when I focused on the business. My diary was empty unless there was a call with someone to help me understand how I can improve something in my business, or maybe it was a call to help build something within my business. Ultimately, it's about how can I move my business forward. So every Tuesday and Thursday, it would be, okay, I'm going to put time in my diary to focus on the business and nothing else. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays were the manager days, sorry. And the manager day was working in the business, i.e. serving clients, doing video calls, doing webinars, all that, even if it be admin, managing my diary, all that kind of stuff. And therefore what I found during lockdown, and granted it was a bit easier in lockdown because we weren't as busy generally. However, I was still pretty fortunately busy. And so I had these very clear times in my diary. 3 days a week was working on the business, which in essence was making money then and there, if you like. And then I had 2 days working in the business to make money in the future. And I found that worked really, really well. However, coming out of lockdown, that's not necessarily sustainable to say there's 2 whole days where I'm not making money for right now. And so therefore what I do is this is me personally, we'll talk about how you might do it in a moment, is so now what I do is I might do an afternoon of being a maker or a manager.
Yeah.
I might split my days, or as we were speaking offline before, what I do with my diary is if I've had a few busy weeks where I've been working in the business, so let's call them lots of manager days, I will then deliberately factor in more maker days, i.e. what's for the future. And that's how I kind of manage. Now, here's the thing. We need to be effective with our time, especially as personal trainers, as fitness professionals. It's that old saying of time is money is so true. And I understand that when you take time away from clients, from classes, or however you make your money, your living within health and fitness, that is in theory, the perception for a lot of people is I'm losing money if I'm not working. The first thing I would suggest is you need to change that mindset, is that when you are focusing on the business, this is your opportunity to grow the business, to cement the business, to grow, to make more money, if you like, to bring business in. And so it's about changing that. The first thing is about changing that mindset. So therefore, it's about penciling in regular time to work on the business, to be effective. Now, I like to call that deep work. Now, what I do, so the deep work is my maker stuff, and it goes in my diary. I look at my diary on a Sunday evening, and my diary's filled itself up with whatever I might be doing that week, and I go, right, okay, where can I do my deep work this week? I might have 3 hours here, 2 hours here, whatever that might be. I would suggest when I'm watching is that to block out time in your diary, because we know, and I'm sure a lot of people out there suggest to their clients, block your training into your diary. Again, it's coming back to practice what you preach. Now, I'm sure a lot of trainers out there will be very good at looking after their own training, so don't necessarily put that in their diary. However, I would think that a lot of you don't put your deep work, your effective work periods into your diary. You just fit it around stuff.
Yeah.
Now, once it's in the diary, you put it in there. Maybe you decide I'm going to do 2 lots of 3 hours of deep work a week to work on my marketing, my social media, my planning, whatever it might be. That's your call. Here's the next skill you have to become excellent at: saying no gracefully. Because if you have that deep work in and a client says, hey Adam, I know we're in for 11 o'clock today, any chance we could do 1 o'clock? And that's in the middle of your 3-hour block of deep work. For most people, the default is, well, if I don't move them, I'm going to lose that session. Therefore, you say, yeah, sure, no worries. And then your deep work gets forfeited. And therefore, that period of time that you had put aside to work on your business, to grow your business, to make it stronger, has gone. Now, that is likely to happen regularly because clients move. Therefore, you've got to set boundaries, learn to say no, or it could be to other work as well that comes in. Now, don't get me wrong, if it's one of your most regular clients who sees you 3 times a week and it's the first time they've ever asked to move a session, then obviously you might well go yes. However, if it's someone who's regularly moving you around, be hard. You've got to set your boundaries and learn to say no. I still work one-to-one with clients, and they know that if they cancel with me, there's a very strong chance they won't get to see me again that week because of the way that I work and my boundaries. I will do what I can to fit them in, and they know that, and I've always said that. However, with my diary the way it is, there's a strong chance that it won't happen. Therefore, what it also means is clients are less likely to cancel because they know if they do cancel, they're not getting back in, and that's a session lost, especially if it's last minute. So a couple of things to take away from that, and then I'll pause for breath. Is understand or diarize your areas, your moments of deep work. 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever you feel you need. Do it regularly and consistently. You might want to do the same afternoon every week. I don't know. And then with that, learn to say no gracefully. So therefore, when people do want to change, move times, you have the strength and the courage to say no. And the upside of that is that they're less likely to cancel once you start to set those strong boundaries. Because if you are not putting time aside every week, and I would say you need to put, a bit of time aside every week to work on your business probably will stay in the same place as it is right now, which if that's what you're happy with, great, that's not a problem. Yet I imagine most people would like to make changes in their business in some way, shape or form.
Yeah. And I heard you say earlier about they need to change the mindset, right? And sort of making these prioritizations and stuff, and recognizing. So, when we did our chat, like, a few months back, and there were some great ideas, and that's one of the things that I know about you, Adam, that you genuinely do. Because I remember speaking to you after lockdown, and you told me about these days, and I was like, that's genius, right? And you've always been able to do that. Because you certainly now have the experience, don't you, and proof that it actually genuinely works. So for the people who are thinking, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, but oh God, how easy is it to change their mindset to put that time in there? Because at the moment they haven't, they may have projections of what they'd like to achieve, but there are going to be some people that may potentially struggle with that. Maybe they do it for 2 weeks, and then they're like, oh, actually, I want to, I don't know, something else pops up, and I heard you say pencil it in, which implies that, you can rub it out.
You picked up on my language. That wasn't deliberate, by the way. That was just the language I used. That wasn't deliberate. Pencil. I love the way you picked that up though. Okay. Let me change the wording then. Put it in big black permanent ink.
Got it.
That was just yeah, that was just the language I chose to use. That wasn't a deliberate choice.
No, but isn't it interesting? So you can say pencil it in because guess what? You do it. You have the experience, the knowledge that it works. You do it. You don't just talk the talk. You actually do it. But
Mm.
for some of our listeners, they might go, "Well, if I just pencil it in, you know." Okay, so
It's
I'm gonna.
fascinating, though, so it's fascinating how, like you say, let's call it a mindset. My mindset, penciling something is actually that actually means it's going to happen, and you pencil something and it gives you the option to not do it. And that's just interesting, isn't it? And that's not right or wrong. It's just the way
No.
you operate differently. And
Mm,
so yeah, so is there a way, and we'll come back to, and I think that what you're talking about is building that habit is so important. And just real quick, like the whole idea of manager and maker days, I'd love to say that was my names that I gave it. It wasn't. I read it in a book, and I can't even remember. I think it was there was a book called Deep Work by Professor Cal Newport. It was either in that book or it was, I think, Essentialism by Greg McCowan. One of those two books. Again, really good
right.
about productivity, getting stuff done, Ruthless Prioritisation. Those two books I'd highly recommend. And I think I got it from one of those two books.
Oh, okay, okay. And if you haven't heard much from Adam before, you should follow him because he reads a lot of books and he gives out some brilliant recommendations actually. And you know gave us some books that people could look at last time. But it's always really nice, isn't it, to hear books that make significant changes to us or inspire us and stuff. So I remember before
I think
we
that's a webinar in itself. Maybe we
oh
did
God.
5 books.
Oh my word. Absolutely.
There we go. Love it.
Absolutely. I heard you say before um I quizzed you on penciling it in. You were talking about multitasking. Right. Now, I got to be honest with you, Adam. I'm a bit of a multitasker. And I now, my view, and I think this is what you're going to say, is that I should prioritize on one task, do it well, not have like 55 tabs open in my brain. Um, I have to say, I think I'm blinking brilliant at multitasking, but there are times when I sort of go, no, and I, really focus just on one task, but I have to think about doing it because I know it probably is better for productivity. So, can you dig into what your thoughts are on multitasking versus prioritization?
Oh, I certainly can. I did whole workshops on this, by the way, so we could be here a while. Right, multitasking. It's interesting. You say you believe you're great at multitasking. That's probably very, very true. However,
Mm.
is multitasking good for you is a different question.
Oh, yes, that's a brilliant,
And
brilliant
if
thing.
you've
Yeah, go
learned
for it.
to become a good multitasker, that doesn't mean allows you to be productive in what you're doing. It might well do. I don't know. I'm making a generalization there. Yeah. Multitasking, I guess it was almost the sign of a successful person in the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s. This person could spin multiple plates, do loads of things, have a family and a life and make loads of money and do loads of things. And even in the office, they could have headsets on their screen. And that was kind of portrayed as a successful person. Yet now that when we look at the neuroscience behind
Mm-hmm.
multitasking and productivity and effectiveness and getting stuff done in essence, we realize that multitasking for getting important work done, important tasks done, i.e., the stuff that's going to allow you to grow your business and work on you, doesn't work. Multitasking, if you're at home and you're cleaning and talking to someone on the phone and watching a TV, that's fine. We're talking about when you really need to get stuff done. And that's when
Mm,
multitasking we know doesn't work. So let me go into a little bit of the science behind it.
please, yeah.
When we multitask, we're looking to do multiple things at once. The challenge with that is, so for example, I'm working on my email, I'm typing away my email here, and I get an idea that pops into my head about another email. So I then think, well, actually, I'll come back to that email and I'll start writing this email over here. So I start writing my second email and I'm thinking, writing away. Now, there's something that psychologists call attention residue. What that means is that for up to 60 seconds after stopping writing that email, you're still thinking about the previous email. So if you're doing that multiple times, then that's a lot of wasted time because I'm writing this email here. whilst I'm still thinking about this email over here. Now, what also psychologists have found that if you are distracted for more than 4 seconds away from the task that you're doing, you're likely to make 3 times as many mistakes. So if I've now been taken from this email to this email, I'm working on this one, I'm likely to make way more mistakes on this. So when I read it back, I have to correct it. So
Yeah,
me thinking I'm being productive by going from email to email, I'm actually spending more time correcting my mistakes than I would have done just writing one email. Therefore,
yes,
this thing called attention residue, it's basically a lag. We're still thinking about the thing we were doing previously. So it doesn't,
yes,
we know that
yes.
we have this idea of distractions of 4 seconds or more. We're making between 3 and 5 times as many mistakes.
It's crazy, isn't it? I now keep a notebook next to me so that rather than, oh, I'll just go and do this, I'll plonk it down on there so that I can. But there are so many times when I'm like, oh, I'll create this image and then put that in that social media post, and oh, I need to grab that from this scheme of work, and so it there's lots of things I'm doing for one task as well sometimes, and I have to sort of, you know, remind myself that I'm good at not forgetting things, right? So I can have a sounds bizarre. This is just for me. I know I don't forget things. So I have a good system of making sure I'm, you know, not forgetting things. So writing a list or whatever like that. But I think I just need to become even better at that. And that idea, I mean, I work from home. No one's watching what I'm doing, but it's almost like, hey, I can juggle 15 plates. Look at me. And I'm like, it's just for me. What am I doing? So it's important to hear that sort of lag idea, and yeah, sticking to the task. I mean, I'm a reformed perfectionist, so I'll just have to get past the multitasking thing, because perfectionism is just, is not great when we're working in business industry, so I've got past that. Just have to now be better at not multitasking and
And
prioritizing.
again, you talk about perfectionism, you mentioned
Mm.
multitasking,
Yes.
how you're doing lots of different things. And one of the reasons people multitask, not the only, one of the reasons, and it links into perfectionism, is as well, is that
Yes.
tasking is a form of procrastination.
Yes. Yes.
Why do we procrastinate? More often than not, we procrastinate because of fear of failure. There's
Yes.
something that we're scared to do, and we're scared of getting it wrong. We're scared of not doing it well enough, i.e.,
Yeah.
perfect. And so, again, when you look at monotasking, it allows
Yeah.
you to focus on one thing and do it to the best of your ability at that moment in time. And I'll add that little bit in the end. And we'll come on to perfectionism in a moment.
Yeah.
And so this idea is we want to focus on one task at a time. And it's interesting, it's nice how you're using you as the example because I can pick on you. And
That's
that
fine.
what you were saying there, though, is you've created techniques to allow you to multitask well. So I can see
Yes.
you multitask. My question would be, what if you just focused on one thing each time and did it until you'd finished?
Yes.
Would that change anything? I don't know. It might not. You might
Yes.
actually become super proficient at multitasking. However, we know that most people are better at focusing on one thing and doing it exceptionally well.
Yeah.
Now, when you focus on the one thing, again, there's various ways you can do this. And when you go into that deep work, so maybe you've got a 3 hour slot of deep work to do. You want to focus on your social media strategy for the next 3 hours. You want to write, I don't know, 10 social media posts in 3 hours. Great. Again, what we know and understand the best way to do this, a bit like training, is if you try and, unless you're doing some crazy multi-endurance event, you generally don't train for 3 hours in one go. You'll train, and if you want to do multiple sessions in a day, you'd even train short training session, recover, go again. And it's a bit like that with your deep work. So you might have a 3 hour block. Yeah, if you truly want to be productive and efficient, so effective in that time, is you break it into sections. So it's called the Pomodoro technique.
Yeah.
The actual technique is 25 minutes work, 5 minutes of recovery rest. However, you might want to do what suits you. So I like to do either 45 or 50 minutes of work and then take a 15 or 10-minute break. So I'll get 3 blocks of deep work done in a 3 hour period. Now, there's something called Parkinson's law, which then links into this idea that we fit in the time we have available, we'll get what we get done. Now, if
Mm-hmm.
I chose to do the same task in 2 hours, I'd probably take 2 hours to do it. However, if I
Mm-hmm.
do it in 45 minutes, I'll probably do it in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And you'll probably do it just as well as if you had 2 hours.
Yes. Yeah.
Therefore, take the deep work block that you've got to write your social media posts, break it into chunks that work for you, the time frames. And when you
Mm-hmm.
have that break, step away from the screen, whatever it is you're doing, make a cup of coffee, tea, go into the garden, get some fresh air, stretch, stay off your phone. Ultimately, though, you just want to relax, chill out, think differently. And then when you go back into it, you'll get back into the flow again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great advice. Amazing. I'm also a reformed procrastinator as well. So I've got past that. So I actually get on with things. I don't put things off. I think with the role I do is a lot of I know I'm saying juggling plates, but often I'm just gently pushing little tasks along because that's how they have to work, because it might be that I'm waiting for some information. So yeah, it's always lovely, and I come away from these chats, I'm sure anyone listening to them will go, yeah, I think I could do a bit more of that. So I think I'd love to, just when we're talking about ruthless prioritization and you're talking about you know making time for this and stuff. What about, and I know you're really good about this, what about self-care
Mhm.
within all of this? You know, not losing yourself within your business. How do you do that?
I mean, that's I believe as a coach, as a trainer, as any type of leader, and by the way, I think personal trainers are by definition leaders. You're taking someone from where they are to where they haven't been, and often we forget to look after ourselves. Over the years I've seen many PTs who aren't in great shape, and I'm not saying that all PTs have to have 6 packs and be on the front of men's health. Ultimately, you look at a PT and I've seen they look tired, they look stressed, they
Mm,
look worn out, they look unhappy. We've got, I believe, one of the best jobs in the world. And bar the occasional day, we have the opportunity to wake up every day with a huge smile on our face, with bags of
mhm.
energy, and go and do something we absolutely love and adore. And to do that, you need to look after you first, which comes back to this prioritization. Now, whether that's training, whether that's recovery, regeneration, whether it's learning and self development, doesn't really matter. It's about making sure you are in the best possible shape that you can be. And when I say shape, best possible health, I should say, and
Yeah,
mindset to help and service the needs of your clients and the people you work with. And the only way you do that is by putting yourself first. There's a quote that I like to use, and I've used it a few times on my socials, is don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. And I think that's so true. As personal trainers, we give a lot of mental and emotional energy to people, and physical at times, and that's draining. So my question to anyone listening is, how do you recharge? How do you regain that energy to go back the next day and the day after to keep doing what you love, which is serving people, helping people change? How
yeah,
do you? And I think we need to make sure, again, as we would with any, if you're working with someone who's running a marathon, one of the first things I hope you would put into their training program is rest and recovery and regeneration. That should be for you as well. So I was talking with you offline, Teresa, and I know that I look at my diary, and if I see that I've got like, let's say, 3 really busy weeks, maybe on the road a bit, workshops, etc., then that following week I would deliberately make sure I've got a really easy week, and I'll do the minimum that I have to do in terms of servicing clients or whatever that might be.
sure.
So I look ahead, because if you don't look ahead and plan your recovery in terms of when do I need to take some downtime, then
Mhm.
it will never happen. And one thing a lot of people, one of my clients, people I work with and friends in the industry often say, you don't seem to take many holidays. I never feel the need for a holiday. Yet a lot of people will look at me or perceive, and often rightly so, that I'm very busy, and not busy in the sense of doing stuff, but busy in the sense that I've got a full diary with people wanting my services. However, I rarely feel the need for a holiday because I manage my time and energy efficiently. I do have breaks away and time away with my girlfriend, yet because I look after myself, whether that's through regular, I wouldn't say daily, yet as often as possible, I get out for a daily walk in nature. I meditate nearly everywhere. I've meditated almost, I'm quite proud of this. I'm coming up to my full year of meditating every day. So I'm at 344 days or something of
That's
meditation.
amazing.
So it's these things that I'm looking at constantly doing so that I have the energy to give to others. And that has got to be the priority. If you're helping other people, you've got to look after yourself first, which comes back to that being ruthless, saying no, planning, everything we've spoken about is put yourself first and make it work for you. Don't fit your training sessions in or your walks in at the end of the day when you've looked after everyone else's needs. Make sure it works for you. And there will be days, don't get me wrong, when maybe you don't get to train like you'd hoped. That's fine. Don't beat yourself up. Be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
We could link into self-compassion there. We won't do that with that. Do that with putting more time for that. Yeah. So I would just say, with self-care, look after yourself. You also build a network of people that you can call upon when you need to as well. And that could be everything from professional services. So you've got your accountant, maybe you've got a social media person that you can talk to every now and then to help guide you, or whoever it might be. But also, have you got any sort of confidence, anybody within the industry maybe? Because let's be honest, most of our friends and family have no idea what we do or how it works or anything. I mean, I was down and I've sort of slowly shifted a little bit away from PT and into leadership and stuff over the recent years. I took my dad to watch the England-Wales game in Cardiff 2 weeks ago. We were on the train and he said, Adam, you really do have to tell me what you do. And he said, and that's the thing, our parents don't even know what we do. So I would suggest having a network of people that you can call upon, that when you are feeling a little bit tired or struggling for whatever reason that's in the industry, you can just phone them up and go, hey, can we just chat? I just want to run something past you, or you know what, it's been a tough few months. And have that support network around you of people within the industry and outside the industry that you can talk to. And
Yeah.
that's very important as well.
Adam, it's so important, isn't it? And I think as well, on top of that, is not just you reaching out when you need to chat to. It's actually reaching out to others, and just checking in with that little close network of people, and just, if you haven't heard from them or whatever, or if you're seeing that they're busy, it's checking in with one another. It is a bit of a lonely, industry. But actually, when you get your lovely network, you realize that we're all in it together. I remember when I was, I don't know why this is the same, but I'm going to use this comparison. When I was, had my babies, I did something called NCT, which was like a group of people you learn together, and you kind of meet up afterwards, and you're all turning up deadly asleep, for the first, however many weeks. And just being with people who were going through the same situation at the same time was just unbelievable. It was like a network of people who understood. It's a bit like, yeah, if I spoke to my parents about my job, I think they'd be understanding, but they wouldn't fully understand it. So how can they, just be able to support me? So just quickly talking about NCT, I remember when one of the ladies turned up, and she turned up in slippers because she was that tired, which was wonderful. But even better, Adam, they were non-matching slippers. You're tired then, right? So okay, we've done, I think we've done ruthless.
Can I just jump into?
Yes, please.
Well, my mind's gone blank. What do we just mention then?
We said we talked about childbirth. We were talking about network. We were talking about network of people.
Can I just spend a few moments talking about that, if that's okay? I know
please.
It's a tangent. And something you said, and I think people coming into this industry probably don't quite appreciate, and people who have been in it understand, is that this can be an exceptionally lonely industry. As a personal trainer, as a FitPro, whilst you might feel you're surrounded by people, if you teach classes, you've got 30 people in a class 2, 3, 4 times a day. If you're a PT, you might have 30 hours a week of people that you see, maybe 15, 20 different people. Yet you're constantly giving your energy to them. And if you're working in, say, a studio, for example, you might not see many other people. It might only be other PTs, and you don't get a chance for interaction. And therefore, even more importantly, or important, it is to build that network, because I've learned that firsthand experience. I mean, I've spent probably 10 years, 12 years working in 2 different PT studios in Notting Hill. And that was kind of before being a self-employed PT in a studio was a thing. So I was in one studio for 5 years, and it was pretty much only me in there in the mornings, because all the other PTs wanted to work evenings and afternoons. I like to do my stuff in the mornings. So I wasn't interacting with anybody for a long period of time apart from clients. And I don't think that's healthy.
No.
And I chose to remove myself from that environment because I realized it wasn't healthy. And with that in mind, I think building that network is important. And then also within that, building a network is, and you touched upon it, is about not just who you can pick up the phone to or email or whatever, voice time, video call. It's also about checking in on people as well. And once you're part of that network and nurturing it. So my network is valuable to me. And again, using a bit of a cheesy saying, your network is your net worth, is for me, my network is how I've grown my business as well over the last 15 years, is by just building relationships, and just regularly. And when I say regularly, it could be twice a year, just going, hey, how's it going? What are you up to? Anything? Can I help you with anything? Offering my services to that person. And that is so valuable. Just knowing, for them to know that you're there and vice versa, is invaluable. And having that network is just critical for your success, and I think our industry success. And during lockdown, and I think you're aware, I built it or created a little network called Thrive to Survive. Survive to Thrive. Thrive to Survive. And got my words tongue tied. And because I knew there was going to be lots of people like me who were self-employed or had their own business, who had no network of people to call upon. And maybe they had pressures and strains of being in lockdown and trying to run a business. And so all I did was bring together people who were in and I deliberately use this phrase, we're in the same ocean. And the phrase I've used post-lockdown is, we're all in the same ocean, yet in different boats.
Mm-hmm.
We often hear that saying, we're all in the same boat. We very rarely are. We're all in the same ocean, i.e. this thing called COVID. We all had different boats. Some of us within this network that I built of self-employed independent business owners were destroyers. They were flying through COVID, not a care in the world. It hasn't affected them financially, mentally, or emotionally. Then there's other people who felt they were in a little topper dinghy with a sail battling the wind in the wrong direction, batting the waves. Every wave seemed like an insurmountable mountain. And then you have people who may be in an ocean liner where they're looking after everybody else. And my point being is, we had a group of people in the same environment dealing with it in a very different way. And the first way we checked in every week. The first thing we did every week was, how's everyone feeling? Does anyone need to say anything? And that for me was a great example of building a network of people who can share experiences, because a shared experience goes such a long way. Because a lot of the time we do have similar situations going on, and maybe an idea might pop up from someone that might help you. So my advice to anyone listening is, if you haven't focused on building a network that's going to help your business grow, it's going to help your mental health, it's going to help your sanity, for whatever better word, then I'd highly recommend deliberately choosing people you can call upon within your network. I even have a list of 3 different columns for my network of different people that I can call upon at different times.
Yeah, that's really great advice. And I think, I understand why some fitness professionals might feel like creating their network means they're working with their competition. We're all in it together, and we're all making a difference. And it is really powerful when you've got people in the same ocean and hopefully going in the same direction. Can get a bit rough. All right, that's amazing. The tripod formula. I'd like to ask you about a second thing, the tripod formula. Go for it.
We've spoken about ruthless prioritization, ultimately how to get stuff done. Now we're going to go into what stuff do you get done, if you like. The tripod, there's 3 legs. This is really I feel a fairly simple marketing formula. Leg one, in essence, is knowing what people want. Now, what I mean by that, because people listening will go, it's obvious. People that I train want to lose fat. They want to put muscle on. They want to run marathons, whatever it might be. And you might well have a niche, or you might be quite general at the moment. It doesn't really matter. The conversation's still the same. And it's about understanding what people want, because we make so many assumptions along the way when we start to market. Now, what I would suggest to you, and this is probably the best way to do it, if you have a business already where you've got people in there, whether that's a business, whether you've got classes, or whether you're a PT or small group or circuits or boot camps or whatever, is my question to you is, have you ever gone up to all of your clients, your members, and said, what made you train with me? What made you come to my class? Because I can tell you right now, it will probably surprise you. You've probably made all these assumptions that this person has come to your boot camp class in the park because they just want to get fit and lose weight. However, they might have lost their partner and they want that social connection, and they love nature, so they want to do social connection outside and get a little bit fitter at the same time. You don't know until you ask. And a lot of people, a lot of personal trainers, a lot of small businesses make so many assumptions about what they think they know about their members. And so the first leg is get to know who you're selling to. The only way you can do that is physically ask them. I don't mean, all depends on the size of your business. Obviously, if you're running a facility with 300, 400, 500 members, it's a hard thing to do, is to go around to every person and ask them. You either then have a choice. Do you send out an email with some kind of incentive, or do you have a focus group? Bring them together, small groups, maybe 4 or 5 focus groups with 10 people, and dig deep. And then you can get a good understanding of around 50 people of a larger facility. However, I'm going to make an assumption that most people listening to this are probably running boot camps, PTing, and probably have no more than 50 to 100 people on their books. So you can very easily get to every single person, maybe with 3 questions. What made you start training with me or come to my classes? What do you really enjoy about my classes, or how you work with me? And what keeps you coming back?
Yeah.
Maybe 3 simple questions like that. And those 3 answers are more likely to give you a deeper amount of information than you'll ever assume. So it's asking sort of intuitive, discovery-based questions. What is it you're trying to get from this? And just listen. Just listen to what they have to say. Let them talk. Because I can guarantee you're going to find some absolute nuggets in there.
Talkers, absolutely. Yeah. So that's leg 1, right?
Do something amazing to deliver your product, your services. And what I mean by that is, how do you sell yourself to that person? What makes you different to the person? Not in terms of your skill set, i.e. you might be great at Olympic lifting, you might be great at pre or post natal. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that human connection. What elevates you above everyone else out there? Now, if you're an online coach, for example, what are you doing to bring people into your business? How do you have that human connection? Well, maybe you're sending after the first 5 workouts online, you're sending a personalized email, and you're sort of amplifying the success of their sessions. Taking that time to do that. If you're one-to-one coaching people face to face, maybe for every new client they get a particular book that you're using to help coach them. For example, my clients, all at Christmas, I regularly give my clients things, and I gave them all a book. It's a book that I've read myself called Atomic Focus. So it's the follow-on for Oxygen Advantage. All my clients got Atomic Focus for Christmas. Now, I've read that book. I use that book. I use that skill set around breathing techniques. They've read it. So now we can talk about how they can breathe better in their training, in their day-to-day life, and sleep and whatnot. And for something that's been quite transformative. And so what are you doing to build that human connection, to show that you truly care, that you can sell or promote, i.e. all new clients get this book, and I'm going to walk you through how to make the most out of it, or something to that effect. That
Yeah.
human connection there. And also, what can you do that's spontaneous? When was the last time a client said to you, like, I'll give you an example. A client of mine recently, I don't take clients on very often these days. A lot of mine are long standing. I only do a few hours a week. I did take one on about a year ago. She was an international squash player, and
Oh yeah.
we were deadlifting, and she said, "Oh, Adam, this really hurts my hands." So I went and bought a pair of lifting gloves for the cost of, I can't remember, 15, £20. I can't remember what it was. I know it's relative to what you're charging. I understand that. However, it's going to be, for most people, that would be half a session. Okay, that investment all of a sudden is powerful, because now she's like, wow, he was listening to what I said about hurting my hands. He's gone and bought
Absolutely.
these himself, and he truly cares about me.
Mm.
So when was the last time you did something like that? Now, I'm not saying do that every week for all your clients, because you would be making no money. Yeah, every now and then when a client says something like that, what are you doing to help them and show that you truly care and you have their best interests at heart? Because you know what, that sort of stuff in terms of marketing as well is word of mouth, and then they will tell everyone.
Everybody. That human experience is so powerful. We talked about it, didn't we, in the first one, about really getting to know people and that deep stuff, and not sticking in that superficial place. But let's be honest, doing those kind of things, if you're working a billion hours a week, is quite hard to do. So that's why we need to make sure we're not, absolutely annihilating ourselves doing every minute of the day, and trying to service so many people. If we can work better and more effectively with them, it's super, super powerful. Okay, so that was the second leg. So I want to find out the third, because otherwise this is going to
Yeah.
be a really weird tripod.
Whereas it would just be two legs, a bipod.
Tripod, perfect. Let's go tripod.
So ultimately, it kind of links into that last bit about word of mouth. It's about telling everyone about what you do. How do you go about doing that? So you've now understood why people come to you, what it is that they like about your business, what it is that excites them, and why they stay. You've got that understanding. You're building that human connection with the clients that you currently have. So now you've got this combination of bringing people in and keeping them, building that human connection. So how do you shout about this? Well, the first thing is word of mouth. The better you are finding out the details on the first question, the more you do of the second one, the more word of mouth you will have, because you'll be resonating with the people that want to work with you, because your clients will be going out, your members will be going out and saying, hey, you need to come here, you need to do this. Now, one challenge of word of mouth, when I owned my gym, I remember we had this group of women who were at a local well-known chain of health clubs, and they would come to my gym, and they were training exceptionally hard 2 to 3 times a week, and they were brilliant, and I knew exactly why they came to the gym, and we would service their needs brilliantly well, and I'd always rave about what was going on and loved it. And I remember asking them one day, I said, look, I understand why you come here. You told me that it's the personalization, it's the small group sessions, it's the way you get pushed within the classes, is what you enjoy about this facility that you don't get elsewhere. You love that feeling special when you walk through the door. I said, can I ask though, why don't you tell your friends about this? Well, because we come here so we can beat our friends at the gym. I was like, okay. So we were a victim of our own success.
That's hilarious.
So sometimes
It worked against you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that comes back to knowing your clients though. So now I had made assumptions that this group of women who were loving what they were doing were going to bring all their friends along. And I had to ask them why. Well, because we actually come here so we can make them look stupid at the gym we go to. You're like, I've also got, I have a current client, not that I am looking, not that I want clients yet. I have a current client who I've worked with now for 5 years, I think. And again, world age group squash champion. She doesn't tell anyone that she trains with me because it's her thing. So sometimes you got to be a bit careful. You can't rely on word of mouth. Just because you're doing a great job
Yeah.
doesn't mean your client's going to tell people, because some people like the idea they've got this exclusivity because they've
Yeah,
got
of course.
person they're working with, they're getting great results. People might be commenting on the way they're playing squash or the way they're looking or the glow on their
Yeah.
face, whatever it might be. And that's their little secret. So
It's
word of mouth,
precious. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
and also they might want to bump into their friends when they're coming out or whatever. Therefore, word of mouth is super powerful. However, what I'm finding in recent years is you can't rely on it quite as much as sometimes you think you can. I.e., don't expect your clients to sell you because you're doing
Yeah.
a great job. You often have to ask your clients, is there any
Yeah.
of your friends that would benefit from similar sorts of things to what we're doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Like that. There's
And
a tripod.
as your tripod, and I think it's also that idea. I like this idea of the ratio of giving and asking. Is that when we're marketing, and I know there's lots of great marketing courses out there. There's also lots of stuff on social media that, I mean, I'm sure you get it as well. I have on a daily basis stuff on social media, business course this, marketing course that, earn £1 million a month,
Oh,
and
that's
some
what I meant at the beginning of this when I was saying there's so many businesses making business out of telling you what you should do, but there are a lot of them that yeah. Um
I'll tell you. I saw it to my friends. I won't mention his name. It made me laugh though. My friend's social media is a very good. He's a brilliant personal trainer. Works with a lot of famous people, and he doesn't say who, but he put this story in his social, so it's on his social, so I can share this. And he was at one of his client's house. He said it was a very nice, beautiful house, lovely gardens, and he was around there training them in their gym. He looked into the garden. There was a film crew, and he said, "Oh, what's this?" He said, "Oh, it's an influencer filming in the garden, this beautiful garden, this amazing house." And it was like this business fitness influencer type person, like this six-figure coach type thing.
yes,
And
yes.
and my friend on his social media post, he's like, so I was like, okay, fine. And he'd pulled in this sort of flash car, sports car. And then a few days later, what popped up on my friend's social media feed on his YouTube channel was this person who'd been filming in the garden, claiming it to be his house. And this is what you can earn. This is what you can have if you follow my. So there you go. I think we all know that though, anyway. But it was quite interesting and funny to hear it from someone that I actually know and trust.
Interesting. Well, we know that's going on. That's what I was harping on about at the beginning, that you're doing it from a real place of, well, you're sharing and giving. This is, you're spreading, your wisdom is appreciated. Right. So we've done ruthless prioritization, tripod formula. No, yes, tripod formula. Yeah. I just had to check my notes that are over there, that I'm just going to pretend I don't have notes up there. And the next one was the elevator pitch. So I think a lot of people have heard of this, but I'd like you to succinctly explain what it is, how you do it, why you do it.
Okay. I just before we filmed this, and I think I told you I have a podcast called The Business of PT, and dropping that in there. And I was
Good.
filming an interview with a friend of mine, a guy called Ollie Patrick, who's doing some amazing stuff. So you'll be able to check him out on the podcast at some point. And he's a super, super intelligent guy. And we were talking, and I said to him, okay, what would be, and I think my question to him was along the lines of, if you were a personal trainer right now, based on everything we've just discussed, what would your elevator pitch be? By the time he finished, I think my comment to him was, I think we've managed to take the elevator to the moon and back. The first thing about an elevator pitch, it has to be short and succinct. That is the point. That's the name of it. We're not talking going to the top of the Empire State Building. We're talking going up a 10-story building, a 10-story, 15-story building. So you've got like 20 to 30 seconds to tell someone what it is you do. How can you help them? And again, from experience, and I've seen so many PTs, and I was guilty of it in the past. It's all about what you can do to help that, to change that person, i.e. the elevator pitch is about you. I've done this, I've done that. And one of the things that this is my pet peeve in gyms, is when I see PT bios or bios of the trainers and coaches, it says, things like, I make people do X. I help people do this. You don't do anything. All you do is facilitate change. That person does all the hard work. You just guide, support, facilitate, ask questions, write programs. Yes. Now, the elevator pitch is how your service benefits that person. That's what you're looking for. So I help endurance athletes to run faster for longer in a more effective fashion so that they cross the finish line with a new PB. So you're telling them exactly how you're going to help them without referring to your ego.
Yes.
They don't need to know that you've trained this person or that person, or that you've run a marathon in 3 hours, or whatever it might be. This is what you do. I help men 40 plus years to regain their youth so they can live a long and healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's your elevator pitch. And I think we overcomplicate things. And it links back to what we were talking about previously, again, knowing your audience, knowing who it is you train, and knowing who your target market is. And whilst we're not going to go into the debate of generalists and specialists, because that's a whole bigger conversation, it's just knowing generally who is it you serve. I don't think I personally, with your elevator pitch, you don't have to be too super niche. It doesn't have to be, I work with 40 to 50-year-old males who work in offices 9 till 5, who struggle to fit their gym sessions in. I help them get in shape. It's just a broad, this is the demographic. I work with males, this age group, females, this age, or it could be males and females. Like I said, endurance athletes, so I'm now grouping them. So it's what sort of person do you work with? To do what? To achieve a longer health span, better health span, whatever it might be, so they can enjoy playing with their grandchildren.
Yeah. I think when it has something about what it's going to make them feel is really key. That last bit when you say to be able to play with their grandkids, to have a fuller and longer life, to, those sort of things. I think, if I was to say to someone now, okay, give me your elevator pitch, I'd be like, well, I'm a PT and I've been in the industry 12 years and I qualified with, it's something that actually take time to actually write it down. You've got to actually really reflect, haven't you? Because you might find that you've been in your business for 5 years, and actually, if I asked you what you did, you may not necessarily know succinctly in a simple message that I'm pressing floor 7, we're at ground, I need you to tell me what it is that you do and how you make me feel, without you talking about your own ego, which is hard, because we almost feel like we want to prove ourselves, in that elevator pitch.
Really care if they've come to you, they've probably done their research, whether it's word of mouth or via an online profile, whatever it might be. They've probably done their research. They've got a good idea of what you do, and therefore they don't need to know that. And like you said, I'm a PT with 12 years experience. Well, 12 years experience doesn't actually mean anything. Someone with 1 year's experience could do an amazing job because of their life experience and just the way they approach things.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah.
In any industry, just because you have X number of years experience doesn't mean you're good at what you do. It just means you stuck around long enough to see a lot of stuff.
I love that. I love that.
It's good and bad.
That's me.
And
around.
So yeah, I think the elevator pitch is really important, and we do need to understand how to deliver that. And going back to the feeling point, that's the key thing as well, is that I've had clients in the past that maybe haven't achieved the goals, that the aspirations we sort of set at the beginning, yet as long as they felt good about themselves along the way, and they feel good about themselves however they define that, then that can be considered success as well. And as you've gathered, and as you know, I like my quotes, and there's the famous female poet Maya Angelou. One of her famous quotes is, people don't care what you say, people don't care what you do, people only care how you make them feel.
Absolutely.
And
100%.
And I think personal training epitomizes that.
It can. And I'd really encourage people to really reflect enough to make it so it is that, and these things that you're saying can make it that way. but we need to be able to sometimes we all need to fine tune things, don't we? And reflect and adapt and adjust and improve, and that's exciting to me. We don't want to just be doing always the same thing. Now, I'm going to finish with this. Adam, you're a coach, you've done leadership, you've been in the industry for a long time, and I know, annoyingly, the things that you suggest to do, you actually do. Just like, and let's be honest, in any industry and with leaders, coaches, they sometimes say things but perhaps don't do it for themselves, but you absolutely, don't just talk the talk, right? But I want to ask you what you find difficult about business.
What do I find difficult about business? For me, it's probably saying no on a macro scale. So what I mean by that, I get excited very easily about ideas, and I've got a lot better at stepping back before I give my answer. I think in my 20s, 30s, I would say yes to, as long as it didn't compromise my values and beliefs, I would say yes to almost anything if it excited me. I'm like, yeah, I'll make it happen. And I think that served me really well. However, as I guess my career matures and I have different outlook on things, I have to learn to step back and reflect and think, okay, if I say yes to this, how is this going to help me go in the direction that I now want to go in? So I'm finding myself saying no to a lot more. However, I find that really, really hard, especially when it is, when it's taking me a little bit away from what I've done for 20 odd years. And I think that's just my evolution in terms of I've taken a lot of what I've learned in health and fitness and transferring that into leadership development and coaching, which is and I've coached all my life, but now it's more that helping people outside of health and fitness change things about themselves. And so, yeah, I think it's just that a little bit of most sadness that I'm choosing to just move away from a little bit that's been my life for a long time, and therefore I have to be very careful of what I say yes and no to. So I guess that's what I still find hard is I'm very excitable. I see the positive I see the positive outcomes in nearly everything that I do, and therefore that can be dangerous because I don't necessarily challenge what could go wrong. So that can sometimes lead to problems. So that's my hard bit, is that I'm highly excitable, which means I say yes to things that maybe aren't the best things for me to do at that moment in time.
Got it. Thank you for sharing, right? Because it can, I think it's important for us to all know that there's things that we have to be really aware of and working on all the time. It's that deep work, isn't it? A lot of the time,
that is, which comes back to support network. That's the person that will then question me and challenge me on that a lot of the time is my girlfriend.
Yes.
And she now has become my sense checker.
That's amazing.
Whereas before, okay, we're going to see this is reflective, and this is, and again, the other thing about it is it's being vulnerable as well. And I guess as we speak and I reflect, I would say even up to maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago, I would feel that I could do everything myself, which I think is one of the byproducts, both positive and negative, of being self-employed, is you do everything yourself. However, if you do things well, there will come a time in your life where you don't need to do everything yourself. And I'm probably at a position where I don't need to do everything myself, yet I still find myself wanting to do everything myself. And so that's when my girlfriend comes into play as my sense checker and helps me understand, well, do I truly need to do that, or can I get someone else, or can someone help me, etc., etc. So I think those are probably the two things: is not of realizing I don't have to do everything myself, and
saying no,
being highly excitable.
Yeah. No, I'm like that myself, but I've got much better at recognizing what I'm good at, what other people are good at, and it's I think it's just life experience, isn't it, that just plays into that as well. I'm getting old. I'm not saying you're getting old, Adam. So that is our second part of our business chat with Adam Daniel. Adam, thank you for your wisdom, reflection, and honesty and transparency. I think that, you know, people listening to these things, when I listen to podcasts or watch webcasts, I actually really just love to hear that person's experience bringing in things without feeling preachy. And I think that's what you've done. So thank you. I really, really do appreciate it. Part 3 will be coming sort of next quarter. So I'm excited about that. Adam did mention his podcast because he's very clever. We did say we would talk about that. Is there, just tell us a few things about that, or anything else you'd love for the FitPro community to look out what you're doing, and then we'll sign off.
Well, thank you for bringing that back up, Teresa. The podcast is called The Business of PT, and it does what it says on the tin. It's me interviewing people who have either built successful personal training businesses over the years, whether that's been for themselves or whether that's been within bricks and mortar. However, it's also people that might influence how you build your PT business. So they might be able to offer different insights, different ideas. So for example, I interviewed Rachel Holmes, a friend of FitPro, who they'll go, well, how is she going to help PTs grow their business? I believe Group X, Group Fitness, personal trainers we can learn so much from, especially about building communities. And that's something that she's done amazingly well. So I interviewed her. So ultimately, I'm just interviewing really, well, who I think are really cool people anyway, really great people who have built businesses within primarily PT, or who've helped people build PT businesses, or who have got a different perspective on things that will help you build your PT business.
Amazing.
And we are the second episode. As we record this, we are 2 episodes into launch.
That's amazing. And where can they follow you on social media, Adam?
Social media, Instagram is Adam Daniel MBA, and it's the same handle on LinkedIn if you're on LinkedIn.
Amazing. So Adam, that was an absolute joy. Last time I spoke to you on the series 1, you were off to the dentist. But you're not off to the dentist today, so I hope you have.
I'm off to go and look at supercars tonight.
Oh yes, that's right. Adam told me he's got a really lovely event. He's going to.
Not that I'm buying one, however.
No. We should. Business is good, but maybe not millions of pounds purchasing of a car. But if you do buy one, could you get me one as well, Adam?
I'll see what I can do.
Thanks, Adam. Thank you, FitPro community, to listening to us talk about business. Basically, he's the one that knows, and I learn a lot by chatting to him. And please reach out to us if there's other things that you'd like us to cover. In the future, we've got 2 more episodes coming up. It would be a delight to support you guys and use his knowledge. What do you call it? Noggin? I don't know. But yeah, we can use his wisdom. And thank you, Adam. Enjoy the supercars.
Thanks, Teresa.
Thanks, everybody.